Hello, this is Domenico with Easynomics, and today we're going to work on some paper 3 in the context of minimum wage within the microeconomic unit of the IB economics syllabus. Minimum wage, as we can see here, according to Wikipedia, is the lowest amount that can be paid. So it's a type of price floor that can be paid for the employment of labor. And it's typically used to protect low-skilled workers so that they are not exploited in the job or labor market, so that they can earn a wage to cover their necessities such as food, housing, and clothing. Because increases in minimum wage may increase the costs of production and reduce profits for firms, we see here that firms may try to find alternatives to fully employing labor that follows or is under that minimum wage legislation. So firms may begin to use gig workers, as it shows here in Wikipedia, independent contractors, online platform workers, contract firm workers, etc., as opposed to fully employing a unit of labor. Also, firms can move aspects of their production towards countries that have lower or non-existent minimum wages as a way to reduce their costs of production, maximize their profit, and so forth. Or firms may move towards automating those job functions using AI technology or automation technology, robotic technology that can replace the jobs done by a human that are repetitive. If it's repetitive, it can probably be done by a machine or robotic type of capital good. So firms may move towards that. Minimum wage in the United States at the federal level, the federal and national level of a minimum wage is set at $7.25 per hour. This can vary state by state. Other states may have minimum wages that are above that 7.25 per hour federal minimum. And we also see here in the United States minimum wage for employees who receive tips. That federal minimum is at $2.13 per hour. And then it explains that the amount of tips plus the $2.13 must reach at least $7.25 per hour. If not, the difference must be paid by your employer. So let's go ahead and look at this paper 3 type of question. And then later I'll show you the real world context for this with some links if you're interested to investigate some more about this minimum wage proposal in the US. So here we have figure 1. It illustrates demand, D1, demand for labor. And demand, remember, is coming from firms. So we can make a couple notes. Demand in a wage or a labor market. So it's a labor market. I'll just make some notes here. A labor market is an input market. The roles here are reversed to what we're used to with output markets. So who is demanding labor? We want to remember that it's the firm that is demanding labor. And who is supplying labor? The S1 curve, it is the household. The household owns the 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, and they are offering those resources in the input market. So in this case, households own their labor and they're supplying labor into the labor market. And specifically, this is illustrating a low wage labor market. So just emphasize this. So minimum wage is typically meant to protect low wage or low skilled workers, in this case in the United States. So here we have our upward sloping supply curve of labor. It's a little bit awkward here, and there's a reason for that you'll see later. And then we have our downward sloping demand curve, also some kinks and so forth, and there's a reason for that I'll explain later. On the x-axis, we're measuring the wage rate, or the amount paid per hour: $2, $4, $6, $8, and so forth. So we're going up by units of 2. And then on the x-axis, we're measuring the quantity of low-wage labor in millions of workers. Here we see that we're actually not starting at 0. We're moving up to 27 million, going up to 28 million, and so on. So let's begin to answer this. It says here, to raise the standard of living for low-wage workers, the U.S. federal government is debating whether to raise minimum wage from $7.25 to $10 or to raise it up to $15 per hour. Here we have a set of questions. In this video, we'll go over A, B, and C. The next video will go over the next set. So question A says, state the free market equilibrium wage and quantity of labor supplied and demanded. So please pause this video and look at this and then think about what your answer would be for that question. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer this. Question A says, state the free market equilibrium wage and quantity of labor supplied and demanded. So for question A, we have to think about, where does supply equal demand? There's no intervention by the government. So it's a free market, supply equals demand, that will set the equilibrium. And so that's occurring right here. And so we're going to draw a line just for ourselves to kind of emphasize, what is that wage going to be and what is that quantity going to be. Perfect. So S1 equals D1. Here we have, it says state the equilibrium wage. So the wage is going to be equal to, it looks like here, $4 an hour. Without that government intervention, the supply of labor and the demand for labor would be equal at an amount of $4 per hour. What is the quantity of labor supplied and demanded? So we're going to have to do some counting. So here we have 27 million. Here we have 28 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going up by 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, etc., up till the next million. So 27.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Here's 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. Here's 0.7. Actually, I should say 27.5 and then 27.7. And then we have 27.7 million workers over here. 0.8, 0.9, then 28. So the quantity, the equilibrium quantity, is at 27.7 million workers supplied and demanded. That would be our answer. So at that equilibrium wage of $4, moving along the supply curve, households are supplying their labor. So in total across the United States, 27.7 million workers willing to work for $4 an hour. And then the level of demand, firms willing to demand 27.7 million workers at $4 an hour. All right. Next question, part B. Draw and label a curve that illustrates the U.S. minimum wage at $7.25 on figure 1. So go ahead and pause the video and consider where you would draw that line. Pause the video now. Okay, so let's take a look. Draw and label a supply curve that illustrates U.S. minimum wage at $7.25. So here we have $6, here we have $8. So we want to kind of accurately illustrate $7.25. Here we have on our IB grid paper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of 5 separating lines between 6 and 8. So from 6 to 8, that's 2. So I just want to be mindful. So I have 2 divided by 5, because I have 5 separating lines. That's going to give me an idea that each upward line is 0.4. So this is $6, 6.4, 6.8, 7.2 approximately. So around here is where 7.25 is going to be. Again, $6, 0.4, 0.8, 7.2. It's going to be a little bit above that point. That'll be fine. So let's go ahead and illustrate that. All right, so we're going to have our price floor set coming across at $7.25. So there we go. So there we have done the first part of that question. Let's move on to question C. Here it says, calculate the quantity of unemployed low-wage workers generated as a result of a $7.25 price floor. So pause the video and think about what your answer would be for that question. Pause the video now. Okay, let's go ahead and answer this. Calculate the quantity of unemployed low-wage workers generated as a result of that price floor set at $7.25. So here we've already drawn that $7.25 price floor. And here we see that there's an increase in the quantity supplied, but there's a decrease in the quantity of demand. So I'm going to go ahead and label or draw. Oops, let me draw that a little bit accurately. So here we have the quantity supplied increasing and the quantity of demand by firms decreasing. So approximately, we have the quantity supplied increasing to 27.8 million, but the quantity of demand decreasing to 27.6 million. So from 0.6 to 0.7 to 0.8, I worked on that. 27.8 is equal to the quantity of supply. 27.6 million is equal to the quantity of demand. So I want to take the quantity supplied minus the quantity of demand, and it's going to tell me the amount of unemployed created. Oops. Quantity supplied minus the quantity of demand, and that will tell me the quantity of excess labor being supplied into the labor market. So here we have 27.8 million minus 27.6 million. That's going to equal 0.2 million, or I can say 200,000. So 200,000 is the quantity of unemployed labor that's created in theory by imposing this price floor. So that higher price floor will motivate people to offer their labor into the labor market at that higher wage, as it goes up from $4 to 7.25. So in theory, in this model, we have another 0.1 million people offering their labor, but firms are disincentivized because they're going to have to pay that higher wage, so they reduce their quantity of demand by 0.1. So the difference, we have about 0.2 million workers that cannot find a job all along the supply curve. So I'll just emphasize that, just illustrate that. All right, so the distance here from here to here is about 0.2 million. And that's illustrating the level of supply. All right, these workers here along the supply curve, they're looking for work but cannot find work because the level of demand has decreased now to 27.6 million. So these households here along this supply curve are not able to find a job and thus in theory are unemployed. So 200,000 workers at $7.25 willing to offer their labor for work but cannot find an employer that's willing to employ them for that wage. All right, so that's it for now. There'll be a link to the next video where we'll tackle the next set of questions for practice. If you have any questions, feel free to comment those questions below and don't forget to subscribe and to like. Thank you so much.